Good morning, or if you're watching a replay, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is for you. Great to see you. And today on the Daily Present, I want to talk about something that I'm really passionate about and care a lot about, something that's made a huge difference to my life and still goes on making a big impact and difference in my life all the time. And that is learning, and learning specifically for me through audiobooks. Not exclusively, but certainly specifically, is one of my main sources of information. And I'm going to tell you exactly why, how that came to be, and why it's a good recommendation for anyone to be improving their learning and absorbing more information. So that's what I'm talking about today on the Daily Present. Stay with us for more. Okay, so audiobooks. Well, now I started my journey into personal and professional development years ago. I mean, I'm not no spring chicken, but probably about at the age of 30, around there. So we're talking about 18 years ago or so. And at that time, I didn't know that much. I mean, I don't think I'd picked up a book really, unless I had to, since probably university days, because I didn't get into reading. I would maybe watch the occasional documentary here or there, but when I started getting into personal development, in fact, my very first introduction to the whole area of coaching and personal development was being recommended some books by a life coach who I used to work with at British Airways, a very lovely lady called Sally, and she gave me a few book recommendations. We were in Philadelphia at the time, as you do when you work for an airline, and so I went to, there was a bookshop just behind the hotel. I went and bought the books and that she recommended, and we were working together all week. By the end of the week, I'd read both books and was already asking her for more. I was hungry, and I knew that was books were already something that I needed to get back into. Even then, I started learning more, doing some courses and training. And even as I did that, I was investing a lot of money and a lot of time and energy into my own learning and development, which I always think is important. But for many of us, it has our limits. And at that time, my income wasn't so high. Needed to really work to get the money for the training courses that I wanted to do. But I wanted to keep learning. I didn't want to have to pay £5,000 to £10,000 for every single course or bit of learning that I did. And so I knew that reading was something that I needed to get back into. One of the things that really helped me to do that was discovering audiobooks, which I hadn't really come across before. I hadn't known much about them. And so I downloaded, I think I got a free audiobook when I signed up for a membership with Audible, which I think they give to most people when you join up. And I listened to my first audiobook and I enjoyed it. And then over time, because I had a monthly membership, I'd get a book a month. I was finding that wasn't enough after a while. And then I wanted 2 a month. So I increased my subscription to get 2 books a month. And even now I find that that's not enough for me as well. And although that's the sort of max subscription, unless you buy a block of audiobooks for a whole year, I just tend to buy more audiobooks on top. But they have regular sales on audiobooks and often promotions on stuff that's in your wish list and things like that. So I often find myself buying additional audiobooks, and I now have the same kind of issue that with my regular book stack of having lots of audiobooks that I haven't yet got around to listening to. But I do listen to them every single day. And I find that it's such a great format to be able to absorb information in, because I can listen on my journey to work, on my journey home. I can listen in the gym when they're open and you're allowed to go and work out, and just being out for a walk, doing other things. If I'm doing some practical stuff that I don't really have to give much mental attention to, I can have an audiobook on. And so long as it's not information intensive, I can do pretty well with it and get lots of insights and good information. Now, I think it's a really valuable addition to anybody's learning arsenal to get into audiobooks. And I often find people, clients I work with and likes, when I talk about this, say, "Oh no, I'm not really an auditory learner. I'm a visual learner, or I'm a kinesthetic learner." It's like, okay, well, have a chat with my friend Laura Maudman, because you will find out that learning styles aren't really a thing and actually just end up potentially holding us back in our learning, and that it's been taught and utilized so long as something that would be potentially beneficial to you. But you tend to find these things of, like, you say to someone, oh, get into audiobooks, it's going to be really helpful. Oh, actually, no, I'm a visual learner. It's like, you're not. You're all of these things, and it's actually really beneficial for us. As I saw Lauren sharing online recently on LinkedIn, really beneficial for us to utilize areas of learning that we're actually not so strong in. Now, audio is my preferred source of taking in information. What I will say is, with information that I want to know really, really well, I will buy the Kindle version of the book as well, and I will probably buy even a physical copy of the book that I can make notes in, because anything that you want to know really, really well, you need to read more than once anyway. You need to listen to more than once. Some stuff you can deal quite happily with just having a glancing acquaintance with, like pass it, hear it, get some good stuff from it, but move on, because you don't really need to know that intimately well. But anything that relates to any area that you want to be, or consider yourself to be, have some level of expertise in, you really do need to have a really deep knowledge of the critical text in that area, or any new information that comes up in that area that's relevant to what you're doing. Otherwise, you potentially keep yourself stuck at one level, and you may even find yourself, as I've come across recently, and even been guilty of myself, teaching outdated information that has now been surpassed. So it's really important to stay as up to date as possible. Sometimes it's hard, I know, to pick out what's actually good. There are so many books and audiobooks out there. It's really hard to pick out the ones that are actually worth checking out and worth listening to, and going to be valuable to you. So it is a good idea to take a look at people who do summaries and reviews online. There are some really helpful ones that I've come across on YouTube and other places. I've done some myself from time to time, and I do plan to come back and do a more regular book review series on podcast once I have a bit more time and bandwidth available for that. But right now, I'm utilizing other people's resources and recommendations as well. I nearly always ask my podcast guests for book recommendations, and that's given me some really great directions to go down in terms of learning from. In fact, some of my podcast guests have written amazing books themselves, which have also been very, very valuable and useful to me. So it can sometimes be hard to discern what are the best books to learn. But one of the joys with something like Audible, if you're a member there, is that they have a book exchange system. So if you actually don't like the audiobook that you buy and don't find it useful, you can exchange it. Even if you do like it, you can, but I don't see why you would. But even if you do like it, I'd say keep it. Any good book that I come across that I download, I think, oh yeah, I probably want to listen to that again at some point, or I think it was really valuable. I'm going to keep it in my library, at the very least for reference, as you might do with any other physical copy of a book. But books you don't like, you can return, and you can replace them with a different book if you're using the credit system for monthly subscription with them, which I've utilized time and time again from those times of thinking, well, sometimes you think you don't want to get a certain kind of book, or you're not sure about it. You can give it a try, because the only thing you're probably going to lose is a bit of time. So in that sense, it doesn't matter so much. You can do that. You can maybe lose a bit of time. If you find yourself getting into the book and you're not getting any value from it, like you're quarter of the way through, halfway through, exchange it. Go for something else. I don't go with the sort of sunk cost of, well, I've got it now, so I'm going to listen to the whole thing. It's like, if it doesn't introduce value early on, or if it's one of these books where people just go on and on about themselves, and you get about halfway through the book and they're still talking about how great they are and all the wonderful things they're doing, that's a big turn off for me personally. I'm likely to return that book and get something else that gets sort of straight down to business. I like to make sure I'm learning and getting value very early on in a book, and so more than one or two chapters about the author, about how their journey, or how wonderful they are, or the wonderful things they've accomplished. Unless it's an autobiography or something, I'm probably not going to get too into it, because I tend to listen to and read non-fiction books. I would say I get through about 2 a week, and I do listen on double speed most of the time, with some exceptions. So that's another thing that audiobooks can give you benefit on, in terms of being able to get through a lot of information very quickly. So for people who can tune into it, and it does sometimes, I think it took me a little while to build up to that. You can listen on double speed and you can actually get through even more information quicker as you get used to it. Now, if the narrator of the audiobook speaks quite fast already, double speed might be a bit much. You might go for just regular speed or 1.5. If it's a really slow speaker, you might actually go up to, as I have done a couple of times, up to 2.5 or 3 times speed so that you can get through the information at a faster pace. I tend to find really slow narration puts me to sleep. So I want to speed things up a bit. I need a bit more energy. I need a bit more going into it. And you may find the same yourself. So check out audiobooks if you haven't already tried them. I think they're a really valuable addition to anybody's learning arsenal and shouldn't be in replacement of real books and other resources for learning, but a useful addition to those as well. What I often find, especially with books that I want to research, and this is another tool I find really useful, on certain devices, you can use what's called WhisperSync. Now, this is all Amazon stuff, I know. Not everyone loves Amazon, but I use them and I find them very helpful. And the way things are set up, it just makes it a bit of a no-brainer for me to keep going with that. The WhisperSync allows you to sync up on your devices both the audiobook and the ebook, the Kindle version of the book, so that you can read along with the narration, which is pretty cool. And if you're doing research and you can adjust the speed on this, it does mean you can get through and pick up certain bits of information really quick and go through and read it and actually mark out and pause the audio, highlight the bits that you need, and then it's much easier to pull out those bits of information that you want to keep for later. So there's a lot of really valuable tools. I've even come across, I haven't tried this yet, but I've even come across that there are some tools for helping you to read ebooks even quicker. I haven't tried it. I think they kind of flash the words through quicker. It could be good, but I always worry with these things that you perhaps lose comprehension if you start going too fast. And when I've checked in with Learning Pirate Lauren Waldman, who's my friendly neuroscience expert, she has said, speed reading at some point, you can speed up your reading, but at some point you start to lose comprehension. So don't go too fast with your reading. If you're listening too fast for you to really be taking stuff in, just slow it down. Get to a level that you're comfortable with. You may have to, over time, build up to double speed. But I know people who listen to audiobooks regularly, especially if they listen to a lot of nonfiction like I do, will tend to go at double speed on the audiobooks. Audible isn't the only version that's available as well. There are other audiobook sites. There are even sites that have lots of free audiobooks. I've encountered some on YouTube as well, like full audiobook versions. I don't know how legit that is. I kind of tend to think if you're finding free versions of paid books, you're probably doing the author out of some royalty somewhere along the way. So I tend not to go down that path, but I don't go down that path at all. I think people deserve to be appropriately rewarded for the work that they do. So but you can still save money and do things the more ethical way, make sure that people are actually getting paid. Because if people aren't getting the money through for the work that they do, ultimately they're not going to be able to necessarily fund more of the same. So if you really like their stuff and you're not paying for it, then you're potentially taking away their ability to create more and more of that, or relying on the fact that most people will pay and riding off the back of that. So please do pay, save yourself money where you can, but do be ethical with this and do pay for the materials that you download online, especially audiobooks. But subscriptions are a really great way to do this, because when you do Audible, I don't know what other subscription services offer, but Audible particularly offers you 1 or 2 credits a month. So you pay in pounds, because I have my account in Europe. In pounds, I think it's $7.99 for 1 book a month, and I'd be wrong about this, but I think it's $14.99 for 2 books a month. So it works out that you pay around £7-8 for each download. So if you are looking at books that are actually lower value than that, you're probably better off to actually just buy the book individually. But if you have books that are around that price or higher, you are potentially going to save money. And so a book that may even be over 20 or 30 pounds or euros or dollars on Audible will still be 1 credit for people who have membership. So that is potentially a really great saving. How they calculate the price of the books does tend to, from what I can tell, it tends to go on how long the books are, like how much content is actually in there, as to the actual pricing of it in the first place. But for members, it's the same price for every book. And then you'll also find there are regular offers like 2 for 1 or 50% off that, again, potentially save you money. And if you get hooked into audiobooks like I have, then you're really going to love that. So I hope that it's been worth sharing a bit about audiobooks. I don't know if anyone's sort of noticing that could be a useful tool for them. If they are, leave a comment and let me know what you think. Is audiobooks something that you already use? Are you thinking of checking them out, trying them out? Again, try a subscription to Audible. I don't have any affiliate site to that. Maybe I should. But check out Audible, because whatever country you're in, I think if you set up an account, even just to get one audiobook, you get your first one free. So it's worth doing just for that. Try it with a free book, see if you like it, or see if you think it's something you could get into and could be helpful to you. And then continue your subscription and add to your learning ability. So instead of having to pay, always be paying hundreds, thousands, pounds, euros, dollars for courses and programs, which can still be great to do, to keep your learning going in between that as well, to always be learning and to be growing and developing in new areas. Add audiobooks and regular reading into your weekly habits, if not your daily habits, because it's going to see you grow. It's going to see you develop in unique ways. And it is one of the most cost-effective ways to keep your learning growing and developing, is to keep getting more books and consuming information. So again, I'll say stuff you want to know really, really well, revisit it. And certain audiobooks, I think the last one, what was the last one I listened to? So a recent guest on my podcast, Simon Lancaster, I read listened to his audiobook Winning Minds. As soon as I finished it, I thought that was really good, and I went back and listened to it again. And then when he agreed to come on my podcast, I thought I better listen to it again. So I'm going to listen to that 3 times. Sometimes with certain books that just have so much good content in them, I'll go back and listen multiple times. I think one of the other ones I did recently, not so long ago with that, was Matthew Dick's book, which was about creating stories. So sometimes it's really, really worthwhile to listen to an audiobook and then just replay it right away. And so I did say there were exceptions where I don't do that. The exceptions where I don't do that is if I'm listening to fiction, I'll listen at regular speed. Especially if I'm listening to something that's like being acted out. Or I think the last fiction book I bought was Philip Pullman, one of the Book of Dust series, which was wonderfully acted out by the actor Martin Sheen and doing all the voice. You don't want to miss any of that. I certainly don't. So I listen at regular speed. Most podcasts, especially if they're comedy or story podcasts, I will listen to them at regular speed. But again, a lot of non-fiction stuff, I might speed up just to get through the information quicker so I can consume more. That's what it's all about. So don't overload yourself with information, that's for sure. But audiobooks could be a really easy addition to your learning arsenal, a really valuable learning tool that keeps you growing and developing. Even with just 10 minutes of listening a day, you will be consistently learning, growing, and developing. If you can manage at least half an hour a week, it's going to be great. It's going to be better than no reading at all. If you really don't like sitting down with books, or you don't get much time for it, then this is something you can add in or do when you're doing something else. You can listen in the car, you can listen for a walk, you can listen whilst you're on your way to the office or wherever it is you get to do. And it can be a really easy way to add more learning into your day. So later on today, I'm going to be recording and doing a live show with my good friend and super badass business advisor and speaker and coach, Dana Farrant. Now, Dana is someone I've spoken to several times on my other podcast. She's coming on my new show, which is called Points of Change. We're going to be talking specifically about having difficult conversations, navigating those difficult conversations. That's going to be at 4 o'clock my time, Central European time, 3 o'clock UK time, and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is what Dana will be on. So if you can join us live for that, it's going to be a great conversation, recording, going live broadcast with my good friend Dana Farrant. I know it's going to be interesting. Please join us for that if you can. If you're not not already a part of the new Facebook group that I set up for Speaking Influence, which is for people who want to be doing more speaking, who want to be seen more, noticed more, who maybe feel invisible online and want to step up their energy and get more attention online, then please do come and check us out, Speaking Influence. You'll find us on Facebook. That's the best way to get into the group. You have to answer a few questions to join. There are some rules for the group, but once you come and apply, I will let you in, and I look forward to seeing with you there and interacting. There's going to be some exclusive content in there and more information, and hopefully some great chats as well. So that's Speaking Influence. So don't forget to join us for more tomorrow. Daily Present is daily, only on weekdays, of course. So I will see you back for more. Join us live later this afternoon for Points of Change if you can. And look out for a new episode of Speaking of Influence later today, which was recorded last week with the amazing posh Cockney entrepreneur Liam Norval. So a great episode, a really good chat, super cool guy. Look out for that coming out later today. Check out last week's episodes as well. Simon Lancaster was a big hit last week and has been my most downloaded episode ever, and also a great chat with Stephen Allen, who's a comedian who you may have come across on shows like BBC's MASH Report. A really funny guy and a great conversation as well. So check those out and more, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow with more Daily Present live. See you then.